The diplomatic quarters aboard the Volthran ship Harmonious Dawn were designed for comfort, not concealment. Lyra Hale pressed her palm harder against the gash running down her left side, feeling the warm blood seep between her fingers. The maintenance crawlway's jagged edge had torn through her uniform and skin alike when she'd stumbled in the artificial gravity fluctuation 20 minutes ago. She couldn't let them see. Humans were still provisional members of the Galactic Assembly. One sign of weakness, one indication that their biology was as fragile as the xenobiologists claimed, and the Council would vote to restrict human exploration rights. Again, Lyra had spent 3 years building trust with the Volthran, proving that humans could handle deep space assignments. She wouldn't let a stupid accident undo everything. The corridor seemed longer than usual as she made her way toward her quarters. Her vision swam slightly, blood loss. Probably, but she kept her pace steady. Her expression neutral. Just another 50 meters. She could patch herself up, dispose of the evidence, and no one would know. What she didn't know was that the Volthran cubs had been playing in the ventilation junction above. Rukal, barely past his first molting, was the smallest of his clutchmates. His sensory whiskers, still growing in their full sensitivity, twitched as an unfamiliar scent drifted through the air recyclers. The other cubs were too busy wrestling to notice, but Rukal's curiosity overwhelmed his interest in the game. He pressed his snout to the vent grating and inhaled deeply. Iron, salt, distress pheromones, blood. His chittering alarm brought the other cubs running. Within seconds, 5 pairs of compound eyes were scanning the corridor below through the transparent floor panels that allowed the Volthran to monitor their ship's systems. They watched Lyra's unsteady gait, saw the way she favored her left side, noticed the dark trail she was leaving behind. Humans were pack-bonded creatures. The cubs had learned in their xenobiology lessons. When one was hurt, the others came to help. It was one of the strange behaviors that made humans so effective in coalition warfare, despite their soft bodies and short lifespans. But Lyra was alone, and she was hiding. Rukal's alarm intensified, shifting from curious chittering to the high-pitched distress signal that brought adults running. Within moments, the corridor filled with Volthran crew members, their iridescent carapaces gleaming under the bioluminescent panels. Lyra heard them coming and tried to quicken her pace. Too late. Captain Threshka rounded the corner, her sensory whiskers extended in full alert mode. Behind her came Medical Officer Vrennik and 3 security personnel. Ambassador Hale. Threshka's translator rendered her clicks and whistles into perfect English. "You are injured. It's nothing." Lyra straightened, though the movement sent fresh pain lancing through her side. "Just a minor scrape. I was heading to my quarters to, you are leaving a blood trail." Vrennik's tone carried what Lyra had learned to recognize as Volthran, concern, a slight modulation in frequency that indicated emotional investment. "Your cardiovascular system has lost approximately 0.4 liters of fluid based on the dispersal pattern." Lyra's hand remained pressed to her side. "I'm fine. Humans are resilient. We can handle. Sit down before you collapse." Threshka's command wasn't harsh, but it was absolute. 2 crew members moved forward with a portable medical platform. "Captain, please." Lyra's voice cracked despite her best efforts. "If the Council hears that a human couldn't handle routine station operations, they'll use it as evidence that we're not ready for full membership. They'll restrict our exploration rights, limit our colony expansion." "I can't." She swayed, and Vrennik caught her before she fell. "Cubs!" Threshka's whistle cut through the air. 5 small faces appeared in the ventilation grating above. "You did well. You may return to your lesson pod." Rukal chittered proudly, his whiskers vibrating with pleasure at the praise. The other cubs followed him back through the ductwork, already composing the story they would tell their clutch mothers. Vrennik had Lyra on the medical platform now, his instruments scanning the wound. "Fascinating," he murmured. "The human integumentary system initiates clotting immediately, but the damage extends through 3 tissue layers. Without intervention, you would have reached critical blood loss in approximately 42 minutes. So I would have made it to my quarters," Lyra said weakly, "and died there, alone, to preserve your species' political standing." Threshka's whiskers flattened against her carapace, the Valthran, equivalent of a frown. Ambassador Hale, I have served with 17 species over my 4 decades in fleet command. Do you know what I've learned about the humans who've served aboard my ships? Lyra shook her head, wincing as Vrennik began sealing the wound with regenerative gel. You are the only species that consistently tries to die for abstract concepts like reputation and dignity. Threshka settled onto her hind legs, bringing her face level with Lyra's. The Krellian molt publicly and are vulnerable for days. The Yithrin young cannot survive without constant group warmth for their first year. The Dranik must return to water every 16 hours or their cognitive functions decline. Every species has vulnerabilities, Ambassador. The difference is that humans seem to believe theirs are shameful. But the Council respects capability, not invulnerability. Threshka's translator couldn't quite capture the warmth in her tone, but Lyra heard it anyway. You've negotiated 3 trade agreements, resolved 2 territorial disputes, and personally saved 6 crew members during the reactor emergency last year. 1 wound does not erase that record. Vrennik straightened, his work complete. The ambassador will require rest and nutritional supplementation, but full recovery is expected within 4 standard days. Lyra looked down at her side, now sealed and bandaged with Valthran medical technology that would have seemed like science fiction a generation ago. The blood trail that had seemed so damning was already being cleaned by maintenance drones. The cubs, she said quietly. They raised the alarm. Valthran young are taught to protect pack members, Threshka explained. They recognized you as part of the ship's family unit. Your distress was their distress. Something in Lyra's chest, already tight from blood loss, constricted further. Not with pain, but with an emotion she couldn't quite name. She'd spent years proving humanity's strength, but perhaps she'd been demonstrating the wrong kind. Thank you, she whispered. All of you. Threshka's whiskers rippled in what Lyra had learned was amusement. Thank Rukal and his clutchmates. They're the ones who wouldn't let you die alone in your quarters like a foolish human trying to be a hero. Later, after rest and regeneration, Lyra would write a report about the incident, not to hide it, but to document what she'd learned. That humanity's place in the galaxy wouldn't be secured by pretending to be invulnerable, but by being part of something larger than themselves. By accepting help. By being pack, and somewhere in the ventilation system, Rukal chittered proudly to his siblings, telling the story of how he'd saved the human ambassador, how her blood had smelled of determination and fear, and something the Valthran had no word for but recognized all the same: humanity.